Welcome, my name's Dan, and this video is going to be a little bit different. It's going to probably be a little bit less formal. I'm not going to go through a specific process. It's not a guide, or I'm not showing an update. I'm just going to go through a few topics related to the project itself. So the first thing, as is showing on my screen, we've now reached 8 years of BookStack. So the project started up in 2015, at least the 12th of July 2015 was the first commit for the code of BookStack. And yeah, here we are now 8 years down the line, still going, which is pretty great. And now at this point, we're coming up to about almost 2 years since I left my job to focus on BookStack and open source in general. So I haven't got another job at the moment. I haven't done for almost 2 years. So within the blog post for the 8 years of BookStack, I've listed out the financial stability as what we're seeing here with this chart. But the good news is that generally, in average throughout 2023 so far, I've managed to cover my living costs. So I try and target an income of about £2,000 a month pre-tax, with the idea that after tax and my pretty low business costs, that covers my month-to-month living outgoings, which is generally about £1,500. And so far since January, via the donations and the support services that we put out, I've got over just over that £2,000 per month mark, which is absolutely excellent. And it almost feels kind of unreal that we've managed to get to this point. I wouldn't see it as something that could get sustainably financing my living costs, at least in a way that I really hope to do so. Because I've made quite a few fairly distinctive decisions over the process of this. Like, I didn't want to do any hosting services. I just didn't want that to become my life in managing people's servers and their data and things like that. I haven't taken on a lot of the offers that I get to implement certain features because I've stayed away from those, even though people keep offering me money for those, just because I know they might not fit the platform or they don't suit the sustainability of the platform. So yeah, I'm happy I've managed to get to this point on my own terms, doing what I want, which is wonderful. So a massive thank you to anyone that's ever contributed. I'm so grateful that it's managed to help get the project to this point where it can pretty much sustain itself, as long as I remain fairly frugal in my living costs. But of course, I will continue providing these kind of updates over time, so we'll have to see if this continues throughout the year. Something else in this blog post that I want to touch on is Reddit. There's been a lot of changes at Reddit, and Reddit has always been quite an important place for BookStack's growth. I don't really do much outbound marketing, pretty much none. But Reddit has always been quite kind to BookStack. There's been a lot of word of mouth, a lot of recommendations, and that's really helped kind of this linear and constant growth of the platform. So when they start making changes, it does make me think, what happens if that goes away? How does that transform things? I think at the end of the day, change is inevitable. So we'll just have to keep an eye on how kind of this social landscape evolves and what other opportunities there might be to put BookStack out there if we need that. But to be honest, right now, I haven't really noticed a particular slowdown in terms of the mentions of the platform, and it almost seems like there's more people on the BookStack subreddit itself that have been asking questions since the changes have taken place. And on that note, I have had a question of why I'm still on Reddit, at least as the BookStack subreddit. And to make it clear, I don't respect or agree with the changes that Reddit have made to their platform. But I don't think they've been particularly friendly to open source in general over the years. They've been continuously locking down things long before the recent API changes. But my main focus is on the user base, and as long as I'm getting kind of an active stream of people on there looking for support, then I'll probably look to continue helping those people. In terms of other platforms, I am open to them, but I prefer steady, stay back and watch what happens approach. It does have a cost. Each of these extra platforms that I have to put BookStack on, it's another thing to monitor and support. So I don't want to just jump early because there's a bit of hype behind a platform. My plan is to kind of sit back, see how things pan out, then just join on and support where it makes sense. And from what I've seen, a lot of these newer services popping up do connect into like the federated world. So it might be the case that we just stay with our Mastodon account and that could be connected through these other platforms. But yeah, we'll just have to see how things pan out. And next, I want to talk about AI within BookStack, or at least large language models. So I've had some requests and some discussion in terms of how they may fit into BookStack as a platform. And to be totally upfront, I'm not deeply in the AI development world, and the technology stack is quite different to what BookStack uses itself. Plus, I like to have like a slow and steady and stable approach to building BookStack and developing it going into the future, whereas the AI field is moving quite fast. but I can definitely see how some of these tools might be useful as a way to either transform or create or understand what might be in your BookStack instance. So my thinking has been that it's probably going to make more sense for a platform like BookStack if we connect to external tools that pretty much, do our focus on that heavy LLM lifting work rather than us building to certain APIs. And so the other day I came across this project, Danswer. I'm not exactly sure how you might pronounce it. Maybe Danswer, because it's got a bit of a Dancer logo. But looking at this project, it seemed like a platform where you can just throw a lot of your data into from different sources, and then you can query it out using these large language models upon some other smart stuff going on. So to be honest, I saw someone come across it on Reddit, and they had requested a BookStack connector from the authors that had posted it onto Reddit. And that's how I came across it, at least for the second time. And at that point, I thought, I'll give it a try. And so I did, and I quite liked what I saw. It's quite easy to use as a platform. So then the next day I focused on building a BookStack connector. So I opened a PR here, and the developers were quite friendly, and that got merged in fairly quick. So I'll just do a quick demo of what this could look like for BookStack. So the BookStack connector that I developed, what it does, it will just scans through pretty much everything in the system via the API. So it will get all shelves, books, chapters and pages. And for everything but pages, it will just use their title and description, basically. It doesn't really have a smart knowledge of the hierarchy of the elements, but by bringing in those title and descriptions, it still gives it, extra data, extra context to work from. But it's mainly the page content that is going to be the stuff that you want within this platform. But basically, it scans everything in there and dumps it into this platform. And then something to note about this at the moment is that it only works with OpenAI, so it will be sending your data to OpenAI when you do these queries, at least when you add a token in. It does have some non-OpenAI functionality, but this might not make it usable in a lot of current scenarios because you don't want to be like, if your BookStack instance is full of client data, you might not want to be sending that off, or if it's got company secrets, don't send that to another company. But before I started work, I did talk with the Danswer team, and they did say, working on those free and open models is going to be a priority for them moving forward. They just got to work out the best way to do it. So yeah, might not make it viable for you to play with at the moment, but we should see some future development for this specific platform at least. And again, there's no official partnership with this platform. I kind of chose this because it was a good, easy to use open source thing that I came across. But in terms of BookStack, I'll probably remain fairly agnostic, even though I developed the connector for this. I want to just, from BookStack's sake, just have it as an API that can be used with any other platform. But anyway, let's show an example. So I've got the documentation, so it's pretty much our demo instance stuff with a few extra bits added in. And I know there's a few pages in there about our server systems. So you could do something like, what server has the most RAM? And then it comes back and it says, hey, the server with the most RAM is dev internal Sparklebike. And then it comes back with a source. And that's what I like about this platform. Because I guess the thing about LLMs is that you can never fully trust that they're not maybe making something up. But this seems to almost always give you the source for where it's found that answer. So it gives you something to verify. So we can go to this. And let's see, it has 4 gig of RAM. Okay, let's check our other servers to make sure that's right. So this one has 1 gig. And this one has half a gig. So that looks pretty good. Let's go for another test. What is the machine under Barry's desk? Hey. So yeah, I found that, it read this out, the location was under Barry's desk, and it pointed us to that thing. So yeah, from my testing, this has seemed to work pretty well most of the time. And I think with the API connection that I've set up to on my OpenAI account is using ChatGPT 3.5, so not ChatGPT 4, which might give you better results. But so far it's been pretty good in returning what I've asked for. Let's do one more example, because I know that I've set up a cage of describing a few cats. So let's do, what are the names and ages of my cats? There you go, 3 cats. Boots is 5, Gary is 15, and Mittens is 11. So Boots is 5, Gary is 15, and Mittens is 11. So there I've done a bit more parsing out of the contents, but again, it's come back correct and pointed us to the right page, which is the most important thing. So overall, yeah, I think I can definitely see the value in something like this. It adds another kind of more natural route of discovery into the content that you have in your system. And especially with the ChatGPT hype at the moment, I think getting people on board to your knowledge base, they might be more willing to contribute if they had a kind of easier to use conversational interface into the data in there, such as something like this. But yeah, that's a quick look. This particular platform is quite young. They've made some improvements in terms of how to get it running, but I think that they're still in that process. But at some point, once it's maybe a little bit more stable, I'll probably do a more featureful video in terms of how to set this up and how to connect this to your BookStack instance. It's nothing too difficult, just running some Docker commands and then bringing in some API details from your BookStack instance and connecting them up. But I don't want to make a full guide at this stage just because things might rapidly be changing. And now the last thing I want to talk about is videos like this one. So I've been putting up these videos onto YouTube fairly consistently now, but I know that YouTube is not ideal for everyone. You know, it is a platform that puts ads in your face unless you pay. There are privacy concerns in using it, and they are becoming more restrictive about workarounds to those problems. So even though I haven't had a particular request, I thought it would be nice to provide a more free and open alternative. And so the most common other option for that is PeerTube. And PeerTube is a self-hostable video platform, but I couldn't find an existing server instance that really kind of suited the use case of putting up BookStack's videos. And while I could host my own instance for BookStack's content, it seemed like a lot of hassle to do that. Again, no one was really asking for it, so I didn't really see the purpose in going to that extra hassle. But thinking further, I thought that other people might have the same kind of use case as BookStack. There might be similar projects looking for a kind of open video home alternative to YouTube, but there wasn't anything out there for them. So with that kind of wider vision and scope, I thought, okay, I'll set up an instance for that use case. So that's what I've set up here is foss.video, free open source software.video. So this is an instance of PeerTube that I've currently just hosts BookStack video, but the idea is that other open source projects out there can come onto here, they can contact me, and I'll get them set up here. And it could be kind of like a hub for this specific use case. So if you haven't come across PeerTube before, it's quite a simple platform. It's nice and easy to use. For example, if we go into this video here, you can just click play and start watching. One kind of unique thing about PeerTube is that, as in the name, it does peer-to-peer video sharing. So it's like here we've got an upload and a download icon. And that's because it tries to share the bandwidth for other users. So if I post a new video and then multiple people are going on that and that kind of initial spike of users watching the video, then that kind of bandwidth transfer gets shared out, which is kind of a neat idea to keep video content somewhat sustainable. And of course, with any peer-to-peer networking, there are some privacy potential concerns, but you do get a pop-up about those when you visit this platform. And PeerTube provides a lot of information about exactly what is shared and how that works if you are worried about that. Now, in terms of this specific instance that I've set up, I have turned off users being able to sign up to it just to not have to be constantly in a moderation role. But that doesn't mean you can't subscribe or interact with this content, because PeerTube connects out to the kind of federated Fediverse. So if I scroll down to the comments, you can see I've got a test comment here, and this hasn't come from my account on this platform. This has come from my account on Mastodon. And for example, if I wanted to follow the BookStack channel, I could click on there, I'd copy their handle, I'll go into my Mastodon account and search it on there, and now they're a Mastodon account effectively that I can now follow on here, thanks to the whole federation that's going on in the background. And so it's on here where I could then click through and comment on if I wanted. So yeah, although you can't register an account, at least at the moment on this platform, it all connects up. So if you have an account elsewhere in the federated universe, you should be able to interact and follow us. Alternatively, there is good old trusty RSS fully supported on this platform too. And if you have an open source project that you produce videos for, and if you have the same desire of providing an open alternative to YouTube, then feel free to get in touch. You can go to the website foss.video, then go to the About page, and there's a lot more detail about the instance itself and how to contact me. And the same goes if you know of a project that's looking for an an alternative to YouTube to host their videos for the open source project. Let them know about foss.video because it'll be nice to get someone else on this platform to kind of justify its usage. And then one last cool thing about the platform is that PeerTube itself, as part of its federation, it can connect to other PeerTube instances, and you can follow videos between instances and things like that. So within this platform, I specifically follow other open source projects and other channels that have quite a specific focus in open source, like Veronica Explains. And so by doing this, this also creates a bit of a hub of kind of all open source content almost, which is kind of cool extra feature because, you know, they're not part of this specific platform. They're on another PeerTube instance, but it's all nicely kind of interlinks, and we can create this nice subject-based hub. Yeah, that's everything that I've got to run through for this video. If you have any questions about any of the things that I've shown in the videos, feel free to put them below. Otherwise, have a wonderful day.